What if I told you there are UFO encounters that even the government can't debunk? Let's dive into the 5 sightings that are still shrouded in mystery. 1. The O'Hare Incident, a disc over Chicago. Imagine a normal day, November 7th, 2006. The sun sets over Chicago, and the bustling routine of O'Hare International Airport continues. Planes take off and land every minute, the sound of their engines a constant soundtrack. But what if, for just a moment, that sound disappeared, replaced by total silence? That's exactly what happened. Shortly after 4 p.m., witnesses at United Airlines Gate C-17 began looking up at the clouds. They expected a plane, but what they saw was something completely different. A metallic disc-shaped object floated silently, motionless. Think of a metal disc, nearly 26 feet in diameter, hovering just a few feet below the clouds. What is it? Where did it come from? And more importantly, why was it there? Suddenly, panic takes over. At least 12 United employees, including experienced pilots and mechanics, stared up in disbelief. What they saw defied all logic and all knowledge of aeronautics. It wasn't a balloon, it wasn't a plane, it wasn't anything they had ever seen. The sunlight reflected off the dark surface, but the object itself emitted no light, no sound. And then, the inexplicable happened. The disc, which had been stationary, began to rise. Not slowly. It accelerated instantly, straight into the clouds. What followed was the most intriguing part of the entire story. The object tore a perfect, precise circular hole in the clouds before disappearing. But the story doesn't end there. When the airport was questioned, the official response was one of total denial. The control tower, despite dozens of reports, claimed they saw nothing. The radar also detected nothing. It was as if, to the aviation world, the object had never existed. Why would the government deny such a bizarre event? Why would they say nothing happened if the audio from internal communications showed the complete opposite? And the official excuse? The U.S. Air Force classified the event as a rare hole punch cloud, a meteorological phenomenon that doesn't fit the description of an object that took off vertically, leaving a perfect shape in the sky. The witnesses laughed. UFO investigators were skeptical. But who is lying? And why? What really happened over Chicago that day? Was that just the beginning of something bigger that would be seen years later? 2. The Buff Ledge Abduction, Awakening Forgotten Memories. The year is 1968. 2 teenagers, Janet Cornell and Michael Lee, are working at a summer camp in Vermont, on the shores of picturesque Lake Champlain. One night, while gazing at the sky, they saw something that would change their lives forever. 3 flying objects, moving erratically and silently. One of them, shining brightly, descended from the sky towards them. Panic gave way to curiosity, but curiosity soon turned to terror. The craft, described as a metallic dome with dark windows and a pulsating light, hovered over them. And then, a flash of light. After that, a void. The next few hours became a blank space, a black hole in their memories. When they regained consciousness, it was morning and they couldn't remember anything that had happened. Have you ever wondered what you would do if you lost a few hours of your life? What if those hours held the biggest secret of all? Michael and Janet kept this secret for more than a decade. It was only when Michael sought out a UFO investigator that they decided to undergo regressive hypnosis, and what emerged from those sessions was terrifying. They remembered being taken inside the craft, being examined by small humanoid beings, the Greys, with large black eyes. They communicated not with their voices but with their minds. This case, with its consistency and the missing time, has become a classic of ufology. But how do you separate reality from a planted memory? Can regressive hypnosis truly unlock secrets, or does it just create false memories? 3. Italy's most credible abduction, an encounter with giants. Flashback to 1978, Italy. The private security guard Pier Zanfretta was on his nightly patrol, guarding a property in Torriglia. On a cold night, he disappeared. Hours later, he was found lying in the snow, trembling uncontrollably, talking about monsters. What did he see? What made him lose consciousness? Under hypnosis, Zanfretta told a story that seems straight out of a sci-fi movie. He described being abducted by giant humanoid beings over 10 feet tall, with reptilian skin, yellow triangular eyes, and claws. These beings, in mechanical suits, took him to a cigar-shaped craft. He was examined, and as in other cases, the communication was telepathic. But what makes Zanfretta's story so different from others? Why do they call it Italy's most credible abduction? The case is not based solely on one man's account. Other witnesses, including military personnel, reported strange lights and vehicle malfunctions on the same night. Furthermore, Zanfretta passed a polygraph test with one of the country's best examiners, and the region where the abduction occurred was known for UFO sightings. Zanfretta had no reason to lie, and the public ridicule he faced only reinforced his seriousness. And then, the most bizarre thing of all, Zanfretta claimed to have received a metallic sphere with a message for humanity. He handed it over to the authorities, but the object simply disappeared. What did the message contain? And why would the government make it vanish? Pier Zanfretta's case raises unsettling questions about what's out there and what the authorities might be hiding from us. Does the government really possess alien objects? And if so, why the silence? If you're enjoying all this, leave us a comment, share with others you think might like it, and consider subscribing to the channel to dive into deeper mysteries. 4. Ghosts in the Sky: Elite Pilots versus Challenging Objects. The story now takes us to 2014, aboard the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt. For 8 months, U.S. Navy pilots, some of the best trained in the world, encountered something they couldn't explain. Objects that defied all the laws of physics. They didn't show up once a month or once a week. They showed up almost every day. The objects were spheres, or cubes wrapped in spheres, that moved at impossible speeds. They accelerated in the blink of an eye, stopped instantly, and changed direction at sharp angles with no visible propulsion. They were seen with the naked eye, tracked by radar, and captured by infrared sensors. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't equipment failure. It was something real. In 2017, the company To the Stars, founded by a former Navy intelligence officer, Luis Elizondo, released authentic videos showing these encounters. The Navy confirmed the authenticity of the videos, but refused to provide an explanation. In response to these events, the U.S. Navy changed its policy. They encouraged pilots to report unidentified aerial phenomena without fear of ridicule. Why? Was this change to understand what's happening or to prepare us for something bigger? These sightings, witnessed by elite pilots, raise the most important question of all. If our best aviators can't identify these objects, and if they can maneuver in a way that defies our understanding, whose are they? Where did they come from? And why are they here? 5. The Stephenville Enigma, Jets and a Cover-Up. Let's go to 2008, Stephenville, Texas. On a January night, dozens of witnesses, from police officers to ranchers, saw a massive, brightly lit object, described as being the size of a Walmart, hovering in the sky. Witnesses noted that 2 F-16 jets were seen chasing the object. The story quickly spread, but the U.S. Air Force was quick to deny it. They said there was nothing in the sky that night. There were no jets, there were no UFOs, there was nothing. What the witnesses saw was, according to the government, a product of collective imagination. But the evidence continued to emerge, and under pressure, the Air Force changed their story 2 weeks later. They admitted that yes, in fact, about a dozen F-16s were flying over the area, but claimed the initial denial was just a communication error. A communication error? Dozens of warplanes flying over the area where hundreds of people saw a UFO, and the Air Force forgot to mention it? The new version of the story did not calm things down. On the contrary, it deepened public mistrust. They never explained why they lied. They never explained what the jets were doing or chasing. The Stephenville case is not about a UFO that disappeared. It's about the changing story, the contradiction, and the cover-up. It's about the word of dozens of honest people against the initial denial and subsequent retreat of a government agency. After all, if the Air Force is willing to lie about the presence of its own planes, what else are they hiding? Tell us what you think about all this in the comments, and don't miss the next videos. Take a look at our playlists because there's no shortage of mystery here.